Hi, I thought I'd put together an educational video that chronicles, or maybe is the anthropology of Pelle Ohlin's musical tastes. These are bands that, through my research and through interviews that he gave, he named as his favorite, or he was seen having these bands posted in his room or talked about elsewhere. Maybe he had shirts of the band, or even Mayhem and Morbid throughout their timelines cross paths with some of these bands. For fans of extreme metal, musical nostalgia, or for those just trying to broaden their horizons, looking at some of the more well known or even some of the more obscure bands from back then, this is really a great benchmark for people to start off with. And there's no shortage of albums and demos from those old tape trading days from the late 80s and early 90s to dive into here. I think with all great artists, you can pretty much track their influences and where they got that special sound from in their voice or maybe the music that they made. So this is kind of a send up to the way that Pelle would always longhand write his letters, and he wasn't a big fan of technology. This kind of shows where he got a lot of his philosophy from, and I think there's a permanence in this type of music that people eventually latch onto once they kind of get it. I think this is something that's worthwhile that he should be remembered for, since he is such a great figurehead and resource for mid to late 80s, early 90s extreme metal and what was happening around back in the day. Some people focus on the image of him and other things that I think are less important. I think this is a better focus on his musical legacy and that constant search for self-discovery that we're all kind of looking into when we hear this music. So without further ado, we'll start off. I'll try not to go too much into each band, but I think each release has its own merits here, I would say. So from Germany, Sodom, the first two demos, Witching Metal from 82, Victims of Death, 84, the great EP and the Sign of Evil from late 84, 85, Obsessed by Cruelty, 1986, Explosive Sodomy, EP 1987, the Persecution Mania full length from 87, which he had a shirt of. He could see in a lot of old Mayhem photos, and the Live 88 album from Sodom. And I think it's important to note, too, that I'm only naming albums that he specifically name dropped or would have been alive to hear in his lifetime. So that you'll notice that there are some cutoffs around 90 or 91. It's, some of this is speculation, but a lot of, I would say more than 80%, 85% of this, he would have been alive to listen to and probably would have been influenced by. Also from Germany, Creator, there's the Endless Pain full length, Pleasure to Kill from 86 full length, Flag of Hate EP, and I thought I'd include the two Tormentor demos, although he never specifically name drops them. I know he was a big fan. I think he even told Fenriz that Endless Pain was the best release from Creator. But there's the Blitzkrieg and the End of the World demos from 84. Next band, Destruction. There's the Bestial Invasion of Hell demo from 84, Sentence of Death EP from 84, which there's a pretty funny story that him and his brother came upon that EP at his brother's girlfriend's house or something like that, and his brother biked over to the friend's house to grab it to show Pelle. There's the Infernal Overkill full length and Eternal Devastation from 1986, all great brutal albums from Destruction. From Denmark, Merciful Fate, pretty much anything with the Kim Ruse era. This is mandatory Merciful Fate, mandatory early black extreme metal. Burning the Cross demo from 82, Nuns Have No Fun EP from 82, Melissa full length, which is a major favorite of mine, from 83, and Don't Break the Oath from 84. From England, of course, Venom, You know, what else more is there to say? I'm not going to delve into it too much. We'll just rip through what I think is the most important ones. Welcome to Hell, full length from 81. In League with Satan, 7-inch. Bloodlust, single from 82. Black Metal, full length album. Die Hard EP from 83. The 12-inch has Bursting Out on it. Warhead from 84 with the 7 Gates of Hell on the 12-inch. At War with Satan, I'm not sure if he would have had access to the demos with Clive Archer, but I always thought those were pretty entertaining. There's the live video from 83 where they play Bloodlust and Witching Hour. 7th Day to Hell, live, Possessed, full length from 85. The list goes on. Slayer from the USA. Again, what else more is there to say? There's Show No Mercy from 1983. Haunting the Chapel from 84. Hell Awaits, 1985. Rain and Blood, 86. Who knows if he was in the South of Heaven or Seasons in the Abyss from 88 and 90, but he was definitely into Live Undead. There's a picture of him in his room holding that one. So, moving on from Sweden, Bathory, which hilariously enough, once he met Quorthon, he called him a wimp and a poser. But those early Bathory albums, I mean, it's black metal cornerstones. Scandinavian Metal Attack, number 1 and number 2 from 84 and 85. Self-titled Bathory from 84. The Return from 85, which is my favorite Bathory album. And Under the Sign of the Black Mark from 87. And it pretty much cuts off there for Pelle's musical taste. He had lost interest in that point, we'll just say. Another band from Germany, Poison. They put out the Sons of Evil demo. These are pretty much all demos except for Into the Abyss, which was later released by Midian Creations, Wim Bayless. Sons of Evil, Live 85, Bestial Death, which was his personal favorite from Poison. Awakening of the Dead, 86. Into the Abyss, recorded December 86, released in 1987. There's the Live 87 show, and I don't know if this was released back in the day, but I think it's pretty nasty bestial black metal to take a look at. There's a rehearsal from November 86 that may have been circulated back in the day. These next bands he named as his favorite, but I'm not going to delve too deep into each one because they're just kind of the classics. Like, I'm not going to speculate, was he into Rock and Roll at Judas Priest or was he into British Steel and above? Definitely first 6 Black Sabbath albums. Who knows if he was a Dio fan or a fan of Gillan's Sabbath. I do love that album, Born Again. Kiss from 74, Hotter Than Hell, Dressed to Kill, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, those are the classics. AC/DC, early Motorhead with Fast Eddie Clarke, and Iron Maiden. In Switzerland, we have Hellhammer, Death Fiend demo from 83, Triumph from Death 83, Satanic Rites, one of the heavy hitters from December 83. Eventually, we got the Apocalyptic Raids EP released on Noise, and the 2 extra songs from the Death Metal Split 84. Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales from 84, Emperor's Return EP from 85, to Megatherium 85. Was he into Tragic Serenades and Into the Pandemonium from 86 and 87? I have no clue. That's a little bit of speculation, but definitely that early stuff is mandatory listening. One of my all-time favorites from Sweden, Merciless. They actually were somewhat friends with early Morbid. They had a little bit of contact with Mayhem. Those first 3 releases are pretty much perfect in my mind. There's Behind the Black Door from 87, Realm of the Dark from 88, and the Awakening album, where I believe the entire band stopped by for about 4 or 5 hours, according to Eric, the guitar player, while they were recording or mixing that album. Mayhem came to listen to the mix in '89, and then they released it in '90 on Death Like Silence Productions. Pelle really lauded that band. Same thing with Verethron from Greece. There's the Procreation of Unaltered Evil demo from 1989. There's an interview on YouTube where Stefan says in a letter that Dead thought that was the blackest, grimmest, speed metal, most horrible demo ever. It would kill the brain. I think he said something to that effect. There's oh damn it, it's escaping my mind. There's the Genesis of Apocryphal Desire. I forget the full name of that demo. That's a good one. And then there's the One Step Beyond Dreams 7-inch from 91. Who knows if he would have had that 7-inch back in the day. That was released in like February or March 91, just before he died. But, I guess it's not out of the question. Sacred Crucifix, this is a pretty obscure band from Finland. Very similar to Merciless, maybe a little bit slowed down and a little bit more keyboards, but their Realms of Darkness demo is pretty freaking cool from '89. Asphyx from the Netherlands, Mayhem was supposed to have a show with these guys back in the day after the German tour, or after one of the Greek gigs got canceled in 1990, but Asphyx had just signed a deal back in the day when they were supposed to visit, so that show got canceled in the Netherlands. But Pelle would have heard Carnage Remains, Enter the Domain, Crush the Cenotaph, which to me is the most mandatory listening from Asphyx. And they used to sell the Mutilating Process 7-inch from '89 on Death Like Silence. They used to trade with it, if you read those old interviews with old Nick. Another one of my favorite bands from Italy, Necrodeath. There's the Shining Pentagram demo from 1985. Into the Macabre, full length, recorded in '86, released in '87. And Fragments of Insanity from 1989, full length. He never specifically names Ghost Rider as a favorite band, but that was the precursor to Necrodeath. It's obviously a little bit more simpler music made by Ghost Rider, not as technical, very primitive, but worth checking out. From moving on to Brazil, my favorite Brazilian band, Vulcano. You could see Dead with a patch on his leather coat of the Volcano mascot. He would have heard, some of the evil stuff would be Live 85, Bloody Vengeance from 1986, which is, to me, the best Brazilian death metal album ever made and one of the heaviest. And Anthropophagy from 1987, full length. Sarcophago, more like our top bands up here. What else more is there to say? There's the Satanic Lust demo from 1986, Black Vomit demo from '86. There is an '85 demo that surfaced on YouTube not too long ago. Who knows if that was circulated back in the day. I believe that's the first ever released demo with DD Crazy. There's the classic Warfare Noise split, INRI, full length, which I know Pelle owned. There's a story, I think after he died, unfortunately that album, his personal album, was sold of that. Christ Death demo from '87, which I think was a like an early mix or early demo recording before they went into the studio for INRI, and the Rotting EP from 1989. Sepultura from Brazil. He specifically named the Bestial Devastation EP and Morbid Visions full length from 85 and '86 respectively as his favorites, and he never went past that. you can it's important to, I mean, with all these bands, but especially I hear a lot of influence in from the bands that were in Sweden at the time, like Merciless, Morbid. They were definitely influenced by Sepultura, Poison. I mean, you can hear even, the name Morbid. You can hear a ton of influence from those South American bands up in the Swedish scene and elsewhere. Mutilator from Brazil. They were also on the Warfare Noise split from 86. They had the Grave Desecration demo, Bloodstorm demo from 86, and Immortal Force from 87, the full length. That's not an A. Matricide from USA. This is John Ortega's band after he left Morbid Angel back in 86. Surprisingly, this Mother's Day demo, his solos on it sound almost exactly like Trey Azagthoth, which is really cool. Pelle specifically said he enjoyed that demo. I'm not sure about the second one, Elysium, but that's from 88. He would have maybe heard that, but definitely that first one, Mother's Day, is pretty wild. And of course, you have to name the two bands that he was a part of. Mayhem, Pure Fucking Armageddon demo from 86, Death Crush 87. There's a Death Rehearsal with Maniac from 87. And obviously everything that Pelle sang on for the studio tracks, Freezing Moon, Carnage from 1990 at Creative Studios, Off in the Dark 89, all the live stuff from Leipzig, Annaberg Buchholz, Sarpsborg, Jesheim. If I'm forgetting one, I apologize. And of course, Morbid, the two demos that they released prior to December Moon, just rehearsal type stuff. Rehearsal 87, Rehearsal Demo 87, and December Moon in also 87. Last one on this page is Mortem from Norway. This was obviously, as we all know, Hellhammer's band before he joined Mayhem, and they put out the Slow Death EP/demo in 1989, which I believe Pelle and Euronymous were both in the studio watching when this was recorded.